On Think Smart with TMFG, Mike and I are going to be discussing why you need to be an optimist. Mike, today on my drive down, I had gone up to the cottage for a day just to check on things. On my drive down, I heard an announcement that the stock market had had a massive sell-off yesterday. Massive.
Yeah, they said it was the longest downturn in the Dow since 1974. The day before it was since 1978, but it went one day longer, so that's 1974.
So I thought I would check the data, because today you need to fact check everything.
Because things must be horrible.
They're horrible.
Yeah.
So our clients yesterday in this massive sell-off were down 1.23% on average.
Yeah.
And for the month, they're down in this worst period since 1975, they're down 1.7% for the month of December.
On a year that's up, who knows?
And they're up 14% for the year.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about how important it is to be an optimist when you're investing. How important it is to be an optimist when you are a financial advisor.
Just not if you're in media.
If you're in the media, it doesn't sell papers.
Yeah.
So I thought a couple of things. First thing I wanted to talk about, we have to accept that Donald Trump is now president of the United States.
Some people like it, some people won't.
But you can't change the fact that he is president for the next 4 years.
And I guess at the end of the day, it's a democracy, and there's no doubt about this election. It was pretty much a landslide, so it looks like that's the way the U.S. is going.
Donald Trump is going to come in and change some things. We've heard about, the threats of terrorists, all the new people that are coming in, immigration changes, all of that. And it got me thinking about something that has always stuck with me, and this quote about there is no creation without destruction. And I'll give a couple of simple examples. If you take a flower garden that has become overgrown,
Yeah.
you could try and weed it.
Yeah.
You could try and cut back a couple of the plants. But the best thing you could do is actually just rip everything out, put some good plants to the side.
Start from scratch.
Start from scratch. Put some new soil in and rebuild the garden from scratch. It's the same when you're renovating. Sometimes you decide, we're going to try and renovate the place. You're almost better just to tear it down and restart and make it even better.
Not that I'm a good cook or anything, but I remember my mother used to bake pies. And when you make the shells, when you knead them and you get them right, if you mess it up, I remember you could never just start over. You'd think you could re-knead it, but it would never work again. You had to go just scrap that and make a new pie shell. And that was the only way to do it because you couldn't keep on kneading dough again. Something would go wrong with it, and you always had to start from scratch again.
Many, many years ago, we had a president of Equion at the time. His name was Bill Best,
Yep.
and he wasn't everyone's favorite.
Yep.
And half the people liked him, half the people didn't like him. But the one thing he did is he came in and he ripped everything apart, and he changed a whole bunch of things, made some really tough decisions. And even though it upset a lot of people, those decisions were huge. He recreated what we were and what we were to become, and that was very important. We're making our move to our new office. There was an existing financial advisor space there. The best thing we did was tear it back to the studs.
And same thing with governments. I mean, governments have to be torn apart. I'm always in between two parties or three parties, but what I find is when any party is in power for too long, it becomes an issue. It needs to be stopped and restarted.
So let's talk about a couple of other reasons why you and I are pretty optimistic about what's going on today. Number two, interest rates are coming down and coming down dramatically. Now, they rose dramatically, but we just had another 0.5% drop in Canada. U.S. just had a 0.25% drop. It's impacted our currency and a few other things.
But housing's more affordable now.
Housing is more affordable. Companies can make a little higher profit because they don't have to pay out as much as interest rates. If you've got debt, that debt has become cheaper unless you locked in those rates at higher rates. Number three is inflation appears under control.
Yeah.
In Canada, we're under 2%.
Yep. That was the goal to hit 2%, but, we always use 3% as our target, so I always figure if we're under 3%, we're doing okay. And, when we're under 2%, we're back with the norm that we've been for the last decade.
Next up is AI. It's everywhere you go, every company you deal with, AI is impacting their business. Some of it's real, some of it's not real, but at the very least, it is becoming easier to do things.
It's more effective. And, people can get more done in a day. I find it's taken the limitations of language off of many people that were limited by their skills in English. Now that that's been lifted away, you can take all your thoughts and you can write a beautiful letter. And something that was very stressful for a lot of people over years. I'm a mathematician, and my English is horrible, and you know that, and everyone knows that. So it was always my biggest stress in life was getting my ideas across to people because I knew them in my brain. When I tried to put it on paper, it was very difficult to express it. Now with AI, I can say exactly what my mind is thinking, and it will turn it into beautifully written a story or article or whatever I need to do.
Let me give you an example in terms of client meeting notes. And we haven't fully implemented this with our client base. But by using AI, we can have our conversations, our face-to-face meetings, our Zoom meetings recorded. And then what you can ask AI to do is to condense it into a proper meeting note. Here's the big difference. If Mike and I were recording the meeting note, we would capture most of the major points, but we may miss quite a few of the subtle points, whether we had said them, whether our clients had mentioned to us. With AI, all of that's going to be captured. We're going to have a better meeting note, a better meeting summary, and in all likelihood, we're going to be able to do a better job for our clients because we're going to better understand exactly what they've told us they want.
And it actually summarizes and puts into an outline in order of how we talked about things.
So I think AI will make life better. Now, when the first computer came out, there was all this fear that all the jobs would disappear. Even when, the internet came out, all these fears that it's going to replace all these jobs. And it has. It has replaced a ton of jobs. But new jobs are created. Yeah. Jobs that you didn't even know. Talking to my children who are, they're back from across the world, let's say, and all the different careers that their friends are taking are completely different than what you and I would have coming out of university. Dramatically different.
There's a great book out there called Abundance, and I can't remember who the author is right now, but if you look it up, it's a very good read. And it talks about the two ways that people look at things. And generally, when you look at entrepreneurial people, they look at life in the idea of abundance. Everything is abundant. Technology is abundant. The ability to do anything, there's abundance of ability to do things. And they talk about governments which tend to work on a scarcity mentality. And a scarcity mentality is you're going to run out of everything. It's very negative based, and it's always out there to scare you. And it tells whenever the world moves in a more successful, let's say, direction, it's always in the idea of abundance being out there.
Next up on the list, why you should be optimistic. Global awareness and activism is on the rise. No longer can governments run roughshod over their population. They're getting overthrown. People are taking back control. Not all of it for the good, but most of it for the good.
They can try to go and cut out internet, but now people have the smarts to get proxy servers and get away from the government, so they can get all the information that's out there in the world. So the governments can no longer blind their people to what's actually happening in the world.
I think we're probably the last generation that wasn't concerned about sustainability. And the next generation is definitely concerned about sustainability of the world, of everything. We need to reuse. Thrift shops, when we were growing up, there weren't many of them. They were places where people that didn't have a lot of resources shopped. Yeah. Today, lots of people shopped in thrift
you don't have to be
stores.
Yeah, lots of people with lots of money go to thrift shops just because it makes more sense, right?
They drop into Value Village, pick up a couple of sweaters, as opposed to going and having to buy new sweaters. Yeah. Next up, health and lifespan are improving globally. We're living longer, we're living healthier, and that's across the world. Technology is changing all of that. Just even on my hands today with the devices I have, a ring and a watch, it's helping me better understand what's going on in my body, what sort of sleep I had last night, what can I do about improving my sleep, all of those things that are out there.
Drugs are better. Everything can go wrong with you. It's not perfect, but I could imagine I get indigestion. I have to take a pill every day that stops it. I couldn't imagine life before that pill existed. where you don't sleep well at nights. Now you can take a pill to stop your heartburn or whatever you have to fix that.
I'm reading a book right now on Geddy Lee, the famous Canadian artist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've read it, yeah.
And it's interesting because he talks about his father had a heart attack at age 45 and he passed away. And today, with today's technology, he would still be alive. And so he ended up growing out, he lost his father at 12 years old. And he missed out on, 30 years of his father because, the technology has changed. Next up is the power of connection is expanding. People are connecting all over the world through the internet. That's helping improve quality of life. Solutions are being resolved at a much faster pace than they used to be. We had a global pandemic, and we came up with injections that could basically prevent it from spreading.
Well, think of the communications on the medical side of things that go through between countries being able to share their knowledge. It used to be if one country came up with a new surgery, it would take a year to 2 years before that surgeon would have to come across and show people in North America how to do that. Now it's all done instantaneously.
Number 9, diversity and inclusion are gaining momentum. I think with my generation, we're probably, again, one of the last generations that's, although I think this has always been going on, we struggle with it a bit because it's new for us. My children do not struggle with it in the least.
They don't see color.
They do not see it.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. Yeah. It's going to take the world a bit of time to do that, but we're certainly headed in the right direction. Next up, young people are leading the charge. It's not 50, 60-year-old white people that are leading the charge anymore. There's a ton of youth that are leading the charge and making some really good global changes for a better world in the future. Global poverty is declining. We've talked about this in previous podcasts. That's a positive. Mental health awareness has dramatically changed. It used to be taboo. You don't talk about mental health. Today, everybody's talking it. Professional athletes, musicians, politicians, you name it.
People are dealing with the problem rather than ignoring it. We used to sweep it under the carpet. Now it's being addressed.
So, Mike, I'm an optimist. I find it is easier to live my life being an optimist. Does that mean that I'm happy about everything going on in the world? Absolutely not. But I feel a lot happier than I know the pessimists are in the world.
Remember the book, The Secret? If you feel positive, you look for positive things, they will happen.
That brings us to the end of another week. Thank you for joining us. This is Rob and Mike with Think Smart from the McClelland Financial Group of Assante Capital Management, reminding you to subscribe so that you can live your best retirement ever.